Notre Dame has its 2022 quarterback commit, and it's Steve Angeli, the four-star recruit from Bergen Catholic High School in New Jersey. Mike, you've seen him play. I will let you touch on him in a minute. But first, I want to mention that later on in here, we'll bring on private quarterback coach Greg Holcomb for his thoughts on Steve Angeli. Turns out, Mike, you recorded a video with him earlier in the week before Steve committed, touching on a few QBs, and then voila, Angeli is in Notre Dame's class. We will play that for you later on. But first, Mike, let's hear your thoughts on Notre Dame's quarterback commit in the 2022 class.
Yeah, it's kind of like not much of a surprise, but still, like it was anyone's game, really. And that's what I was saying this week, that like I could see any of these guys be Notre Dame's quarterback in the class, whether it was Drew Alar, Steve Angeli, or Gavin Wimsatt. They only offered four, those three guys and Ty Simpson from Tennessee. So it wasn't a big quarterback board. Notre Dame took as long as it could really to evaluate these guys, talk to them, get to know them, their families, get as much footage, and again, get to know them as much as they could. And I think at the end of the day, Steve Angeli is a really good get for Notre Dame for multiple fronts. When we play this Greg Holcomb video, you guys will get to watch Steve Angeli's junior tape, and a lot of it is him running for his life. So I just don't feel like, Steve Angeli's film shows all what he can do. But this film right here, we put on our YouTube channel back in September. I went to see him September 15th, I believe it was, for a practice Notre Dame had just offered a month prior. I wanted to get out to Bergen Catholic to see what this Angeli kid was all about. And I was so impressed with Angeli. I wrote an article at blueandgold.com, a column on Angeli's commitment, and I mentioned in the story that I went to see Cade Klubnik, a Clemson quarterback, just committed to the Tigers this week. I went to see him about 2 or 3 weeks before I saw Angeli. I was more impressed with Angeli. Love Klubnik, fantastic quarterback. But what I saw from Angeli, I left, New Jersey thinking, man, like this Angeli kid is the real deal. And you see this, in watching this tape here, his film, his junior tape, which again we'll watch. He improvising, that ability is so good. The athleticism, the arm strength, all that's on display. But here, I feel like you really see like the mechanics are so good. He's clearly been coached very well. Matt Bastardi in New Jersey has done a fantastic job with Angeli over the years. He just does everything right. I've called him a modern day quarterback in that, the size, check. The athleticism, check. The arm strength, check. The accuracy, the mechanics, the mobility. I mean, there's everything that he has. I'm not saying he's the perfect quarterback. He's going to go be, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers had a baby or something like that. But like he has all of the tools. Like I just don't see how anyone could like watch something like this and be like, like he is a damn good quarterback, Patrick.
So how does he compare, do you think, to the other quarterbacks at Notre Dame offered? Of course, like you said, they offered four. Three of them were still uncommitted, including Angeli before, of course, he decided to join the class. How does he relate to the other guys Notre Dame was really looking at it as their QB in this 2022 class?
All a little bit different, but all have similar traits in that, good size. I think actually Simpson was the smallest of the bunch. Good size, all mobile, all strong arm, all great kids. Really enjoyed getting to know all four throughout the process. But I mean, the one really interesting thing I'll mention, I actually wrote about this in my commit column as well, is that Angeli, I feel like, has the most to prove in that he's only attempted about 164 passes, I believe it was, in his high school career so far. He wasn't the full-time starter as a sophomore. They had a captain senior as a leader captain senior starter when Angeli was a sophomore. So Angeli just kind of played in packages here and there, and then only 6 games as a junior because New Jersey didn't have much of a season. So he's and like I said earlier, he was running for his life most of his junior season. So I mean, is not slinging the ball around a ton. That offense is also very multiple. So he has the most to kind of prove here. Whereas Alar's been starting for a couple seasons. Wimsat has, 30 games under his belt. Ty Simpson's played a ton of football at the high school level. So Angeli, I feel like, is really just scratching the surface. And people talk about, oh, he's the safe choice for Notre Dame, low hanging fruit. No, I mean, Notre Dame had to do so much research and dig so much into Angeli because of those factors I mentioned. And people don't think he has that high of a ceiling. I don't know what you're thinking. Like, where does that come from? I mean, when I see him, he's just now scratching the surface. We're just learning about Steve Angeli's development.
So last month on signing day, we heard Notre Dame's assistants, Tommy Rees, Brian Polian, Mike Elston, Marcus Freeman talk about fit, intangibles rating. Reese in particular went into how they do intangibles deep dives on these quarterbacks, and obviously it's even more of a interesting or at least harder process without getting to see them and meet them in person. But from your experience, Mike, what kind of kid is Steven Angeli? Like you said, we hear about Notre Dame kid and all these intangibles and character deep dives that Notre Dame does. What's your experience?
Yeah, so I've been able to meet Angeli in person, met his dad, talked to his head coach, Vito Campanelli, on the phone a few times, and got to meet him in person as well. Have talked to other recruits about Steve Angeli, talked to his brothers. I mean, I feel like I know this family really well. And he is going to be a fantastic ambassador of the Notre Dame football program. He's going to be great on the recruiting front. Nolan Ziegler, Notre Dame linebacker commit, deserves a lot of credit, and we'll have article on him coming up in a week or so about how he's done a great job as the most vocal recruiter among the Irish commits. Angeli is going to do that, and probably much more as the quarterback, the face of the class. He has an it factor. He has a infectious personality. The leadership qualities are outstanding. I know I'm just here gushing about Steve Angeli. I want to make it clear again. I don't know if he's going to be, the quarterback that Notre Dame fans have wanted in the Brian Kelly era to lead them to the promised land. But my point here, guys, is that all of the qualities off the field, on the field, the upsize, the size, the leadership, all of those things Steve Angeli has. And that's why he was the first offer in the class. I mean, I think Reese offered Angeli and then offered Wimsat, like 5 minutes later in that conversation back August of 2020. But there's a reason Notre Dame targeted him early because he's a great fit on and off the field.
It certainly, much to prove here, like you said, with just him having really started for about a year. But nonetheless, whatever you think of him, big domino narrative, whatever you want to call it, in Notre Dame's 2020 class has taken shape here, and that it has a quarterback. We will now go to Mike, your interview with Greg Holcomb.
What's going on, folks? Mike Singer with blueandgold.com with Greg Holcomb, private quarterback trainer based in Chicago with Next Level Athletics, talking about four-star quarterback Steve Angeli from Bergen Catholic, offers from the likes of Notre Dame, Oregon, Michigan, Stanford, recent offer, a big-time player, someone I've been able to see in person and really like. So bringing on Greg to break down Steve Angeli's junior tape. Only 6 games he was able to play due to New Jersey just having a shortened season. So we'll pop it on. 6'2", about 205, 210 pounder from New Jersey. Why don't you tell us what you like?
Yeah, again, really like Steven. I've been watching his film from his sophomore year and then obviously watched the shortened season this year. You're talking about a guy that has a lot of multi-talented skill set tools in his toolbox. He can move in the pocket. He certainly can tuck it and run. He's got right there. I mean, that's a great example, right? And then a leap over the linebacker. But he does some just really nice things with his arms and with his arm and his legs. So can escape pressure in the pocket. He's kind of today's version of a lot of what you see in college football, probably a little bit more than in the NFL. But he can tuck it and run, and he can sling it. He reminds me, I hate to make comparisons, but if I'm gonna, use a guy that he reminds me a little bit of, it's probably a taller version of kind of a Baker Mayfield. He's just got that athletic ability, but can also put the ball into tight windows. He can roll out, throw off platform. Um, he's got pretty good size too. I do know that he's playing some 7-on-7 games right now with the local team here in Chicago, Boom. I haven't seen him in person. I'm hoping to be able to do that, possibly in Indianapolis at the end of March. But yeah, a lot of things jump out on film for me, and mechanically, he's very fundamentally sound. Good ball carriage, good feet, smooth stroke. So yeah, again, not seeing him in person, but just watching what I see in film, just a lot of very, very good um, traits that are certainly going to carry him. Obviously, he's a 4-star and is being highly recruited, and there's a good reason why.
The thing for me is like the boxes that he checks. He's got the size, he moves well, strong arm, he runs well. I'm like, I don't really see much that, and I even like all the different things they're doing in their offense. Like, how often do you see at the high school level, I formation, playoff, or play action?
Yeah, not a lot. Yeah, I mean, he runs this offense from a lot of multiple sets. So they're under center and they're in shotgun. I saw some pistol earlier. Here's I formation right here, right, with a fullback and tailback. So kudos to their offensive coordinator and their staff for putting together just a really in-depth, looks like high-level offensive scheme for him to run out of. That certainly is going to help him at the next level where he plays his college football.
I've kind of called him like the modern day quarterback, someone that you need to stand in the pocket. But the days of Peyton Manning and Tom Brady just standing back there, and if you're going to do that and not be a mobile guy, you've got to be extremely well. So I mean, is that kind of fair that like he is? I'm not sure what he's going to be, how good he's going to be at the next level. I personally think he'll be a good player, but like this is quarterbacks now. You've got to be able to, if pressure breaks down, you've got to be able to do what he just did, break out of a couple sacks and go pick up 6 yards.
Yeah, 100% agree. And as I watched his film, I noticed that the teams they're playing, a lot of blitzing, a lot of, I don't know if it's a breakdown in his offensive line, but a lot of guys getting through, and he really does a nice job of avoiding pressure, creating time and space for himself and just extending plays. So, he's got to be a defensive coordinator's nightmare because he certainly is. I mean, right there's a perfect example, right? A guy shoots right through the A gap, he rolls out to the right. Most guys probably are getting sacked in that situation, and he throws an 8-yard completion. So, yeah, there's just a lot of good things about him. That's a hard throw right there where you're running away from the line of scrimmage at that 45-degree angle, and you're able to throw obviously upfield. So, yeah, I mean, he does. He checks all the boxes. He's obviously playing in high school. It'll be a different story at the next level, but I certainly like a lot of the things that I see with him.
That's like my favorite play right there. It's like a 2 yard run, but the way you juke that guy out. You mentioned that pretty much every play it seems like he's under duress here, and I do think that's a mix of blitzing against him and just protection breakdown. Wrapping up here, Greg. Ceiling, like how good do you think that Steve Angeli could be at the next level?
Yeah, it looks like it's, the sky's the limit for him. He's being recruited by some of the biggest programs in the country. He's got 4 stars attached to his name. He's still only a junior, right? So he's got another year of high school to play. But, I think he's going to probably tear it up on the camp circuit this summer and do some cool things, in front of the right people and probably get some notoriety to play in some national all-star games or some things like that where you're really going to get to see him play against some national competition. But man, if just turning on the film, I could watch the entire clip of his huddle. It's just there's just a lot of good things to see here.
I feel like he has the cleanest mechanics. He's clearly had a has been trained, and I've talked to his private quarterback trainer in New Jersey. He clearly has been coached well, and his mechanics look great. Can you kind of speak on those?
Yeah, 100%. Very compact motion, release point, all the classic things that you try to teach, right? It's just very natural, very smooth. There's nothing glitchy or just unnatural about it. So, when you've got that, that clearly is, something that you've not only worked at, but naturally you're probably a pretty good thrower anyway. So yeah, I mean, mechanics are probably one of the hardest things to teach. We can see a lot of good athletes, but if you aren't throwing the ball mechanically sound, the result usually isn't going to be as good as it could be if you were. So, like I said, man, you're checking all the boxes for him, and mechanics certainly are one of them.
Appreciate Greg Holcomb, Next Level Athletics quarterback trainer.